Coming up on Network Africa. 11 people dead and dozens missing in 2 shipwrecks carrying migrants from Libya and Turkey. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu departs the country to attend Wednesday's inauguration of Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa. Plus, 2 candidates up against President Paul Kagame in Rwanda's election slated for July the 15th. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. At least 11 people have died and more than 60 are missing as a result of 2 shipwrecks off the coast of southern Italy. German charity rescue ship said it picked up about 51 people from a sinking wooden boat and found 10 bodies trapped in the lower deck near the island of Lampedusa. Meanwhile, Médecins Sans Frontières, the MSF, Doctors Without Borders, say in a separate incident on the same day, more than 60 people were reported missing, with 26 of them feared to be children. According to the UN Refugee Agency, UNHCR, the International Organization for Migration, IOM, and the Children's Agency, UNICEF, the boats were carrying migrants who had set off from Libya and Turkey, who were from Syria, Egypt, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu will on Wednesday attend the inauguration of President Cyril Ramaphosa in South Africa. The president has departed the country for Pretoria. According to a statement by the Special Advisor to President Buhari on Media and Publicity, Algerie Ngelale, President Tinubu will return to Nigeria after the ceremony. The inauguration of President Ramaphosa follows his re-election as president for a second term. He was re-elected on Friday after the African National Congress put together an unprecedented coalition government to rule the country. The South African Revenue Service has announced the commencement of tax season 2024, signaling a proactive stance towards tax compliance, utilizing advanced technologies such as machine learning and artificial intelligence. The Revenue Service says it aims to simplify tax filing processes while bolstering enforcement against tax evasion, including targeting crypto traders and assets for taxation. Tusani Nyandu from Mazars Tax Practitioner says there's a need for coordination and collaboration between the SARS and the tax practitioners in order to enforce compliance.
But building trust, I must first start by saying that there are tax practitioners that are not doing well. They are not providing the correct services to their clients. So SARS needs to deal with those. The recognized professional bodies need to deal with those. But by and large, the partnership and the contribution that tax practitioners are having is huge to ensure that most of taxpayers are compliant. I mean, if you can quantify that, how much of the work that tax practitioners are doing, then you will realize that there's a lot of contribution. Now, if SARS frustrates tax practitioners and they're not able to operate and work, then it becomes a problem, because right now you can't, as a tax practitioner, get an appointment at SARS. They say they don't want to have walk-in appointments for tax practitioners. So I think if we can fix that relationship, then you go a long way towards having compliance, because the reality is not everyone has got the skills or the know-how for them to be tax compliant. Therefore, you need professionals to assist them.
In July, Rwandans will choose between 3 presidential candidates and over 500 aspiring members of parliament during the general elections. The Rwanda National Electoral Commission has unveiled the names of the candidates in the presidential and parliamentary polls. President Paul Kagame, who has been president for 23 years, has been at the head of the Rwandan Patriotic Front Party since 1998. He will face Frank Habineza of the opposition Democratic Green Party of Rwanda and Philippe Mpayimana, who runs as an independent. In total, 9 candidates submitted their candidacy to the National Electoral Commission. Mr. Habineza ran during the last presidential poll and garnered less than 2% of the votes. Mr. Kagame won previous elections in 2003, 2010, and 2017 with more than 90% of the vote, while critics and rights groups accuse him of ruling in a climate of fear that stifles dissent and free speech. Well, joining us now for more is socio-political commentator Ryaneza Bernard from Kigali. Hello, Mr. Bernard. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Hi, Layo.
Now,
glad to be on the program.
Indeed, we're glad to have you. Let's begin with, the preparations towards the elections in July. How is the Electoral Commission preparing for the polls?
The Electoral Commission has an elaborate timetable that began last year, and they are sticking to it. They have prepared the timetable. They've come up with the requirements for candidates. They've shared their requirements for the parties on the criteria for candidates. Candidates have been nominated. We have the candidates have now been zeroed down to the successful ones. In the case of the presidential candidates, 9 aspirants applied, and we have now whittled that down to 3 candidates that have been successful. There are a lot of other things going on: civic engagement, education on the electoral law, and things are moving apace. The population is gearing up for the elections, which are going to happen soon. We have the campaigns beginning in 4 days' time on the 22nd, and parties have prepared their roadmaps for where they are going to be campaigning from. There has been financing of the regalia and the other items needed for campaigns. Yeah, so everything is ready as far as the eye can see.
Now, talking about those candidates that you've mentioned, now there are 3 vying for the position of president. We know incumbent President Paul Kagame is going for another term. Talk to us about, the other 2 that are trying to run with him.
President Kagame is very well known. He's been around for some time, from the pre-war times to the war, and now in post-war Rwanda, post-genocide Rwanda, is very well known. The other 2 are fairly well known because both have vied for the presidency previously in 2017. Frank Habineza is a seasoned politician. He's now a member of parliament. Philippe Mpayimana is also a credible presidential candidate. He works for the Ministry of National Unity and Civic Engagement as a senior expert. And they are fairly well known, though I would say Philippe will need a bit more exposure in the countryside.
All right, then. Well, we know President Kagame, like you said, is really well known. He's been president for 23 years, but, his critics and some right groups accuse him of ruling in a climate of fear that stifles dissent and free speech. What is the reaction to this from these 2 candidates?
Initially, for Frank Habineza, he he had his brushes with the government. As he set up his political organization, he ran afoul of the law on a number of occasions. But he also faced a few incidents that some point to as government instigated, though nothing, no clear link to government actions has been established. I think he once lost one of his vice presidents to crime, and somebody else was attacked. And he accused the government of having a hand in this. But the government has denied this vehemently, and he has carried on his political activities undisturbed. In fact, he has progressed. He has now a few more members of parliament participating. He's a very well-established member of parliament himself. He has gone very mainstream now. So he hasn't really come out to criticize the government this time round on human rights issues. I think he's also now focusing more on the elections to see where he can get with this second run.
All right.
As for Philippe Maimana, he has basically been somebody who has decided to take the slow approach. He has been an independent candidate before, and he's now an independent again. He hasn't had any issues with the government so far because he's pretty much a one-man show. And I'm sure he's building his profile the slow way, and he's taking the long route to recognition. Yeah, but he's quite credible. He's a well-educated journalist, and he certainly wouldn't fail to speak out if he met any issues with his rights or the rights of his supporters, because he has worked for many media houses in the past, and he now works for the government. That is a sign that he has confidence in it.
All right, then. You pointed out earlier that campaigns will be starting soon on the 22nd. What are the issues Rwandans are looking for, from their next leader?
Rwandans, I think the most worrying thing for them has been the atmosphere in the region, the interstate relations between Rwanda and her neighbors, because this affects business in fundamental ways. So they are looking at the government improving relations with her neighbors. Like any other developing country, there are still issues of employment. People would like more jobs. Businessmen would like a more vibrant economy. They would like to have clear chances, short opportunities at anything that they can get their hands on. So the government really needs to increase business opportunities. I think they are doing that. We now have big opportunities in mining that previously weren't there. We have many opportunities in the IT field that are even cross-cutting across borders. We have call centers, international call centers setting up here. Yeah, so they are tackling the issue of unemployment. Other than that, people are generally settled, and I think they give the RPF government high marks in their performance, despite the challenges that I've mentioned.
All right, then. We'll wait till the 15th of July. That's when elections will be holding in Rwanda. Thank you so much, socio-political commentator Rayaneza Bernard. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Laia. Pleasure being on the show.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still ahead. Kenya's president accused the EU and US of hypocrisy over seizure of Russian assets. Please stay with us for more details. Thank you for staying with us on the program. The UN High Commission for Human Rights is calling for concrete measures to halt the human rights violations and abuses that continue to endanger reconciliation and peace in Ethiopia. Spokesperson Liz Throssell says the High Commissioner Volker Turk is urging the parties to the conflict to halt ongoing hostilities and also to resolve their differences through peaceful means. The UN Human Rights Office issued an update analyzing the human rights situation across Ethiopia from January 2023 to January 2024. In 2023, at least 1,351 civilians were killed in the country in attacks reportedly carried out by government forces, Eritrean troops, anti-government militias, and some unknown actors. Of the civilians killed, 740 were in the Amhara region.
The High Commissioner urges the parties to the conflict to halt ongoing hostilities and to resolve difference through peaceful means. It's essential that the authorities take all feasible steps to protect civilians, prevent further violations, and ensure there are full investigations to bring those responsible to justice. Now, some of the points in this update include violent conflicts, particularly in the Amhara and Oromia regions, led to serious human rights violations and abuses in 2023. In the northern Tigray region, there was a significant improvement in the human rights situation following the cessation of hostilities agreement in November 2022. But concerns persist regarding ongoing violations by members of the Eritrean Defence Forces. The use of unmanned aerial vehicles by government forces resulted in 248 civilian deaths between the 4th of August and the 31st of December 2023 and destroyed vital infrastructure, including schools and hospitals, raising concerns about the extent of compliance of these strikes with international law. Now, we are urging the authorities to release immediately those detained under the former state of emergency if they've not been charged under currently valid law and tried promptly and fairly. And, of course, those who have not been charged should also be released immediately. The situation in Amhara and Oromia regions remains worrying, with ongoing fighting between government forces against Amhara militia and Fano and the Oromo Liberation Army, respectively.
The UN's International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD, says there has been a significant increase in remittances in Kenya over the past decade, reaching a record of $4.2 billion US dollars, I beg your pardon, in 2023, representing an annual growth of 4%. The digitalization of sending remittances in the last decade has led to huge improvements in access for millions of the world's poorest rural people. However, the costs of sending those monies in some countries like Kenya are still prohibitive. Well, Dr. Shea Mokchodo, the head of the Kenya Diaspora Alliance, praised the UN agency's work to promote digital remittances, but said more still needs to be done.
We should take a moment to appreciate the huge economic contributions of remittances. The amounts are very big and they are growing fast. 5 times more will be sent this year than 20 years ago. And between now and 2030, the cumulative flow is projected to exceed an incredible $5 trillion. These are huge sums, and they are a lifeline to hundreds of millions of people, half of them in rural areas.
I'm happy that IFAD is really bringing this conversation, especially about access in our rural areas. The cost of remitting money to Kenya averages, just as we've been told by CBK, just over 6% higher than the ideal 3% target set by the SDGs. This is still considerably high, and I'm happy that the central bank is really working towards this. Therefore, interventions such as aligning with the SDGs' universal value to leave no one behind, our primary goal remains key in achieving inclusivity and access to digital remittance and financial services.
We have funded 3 projects with Credit Bank on Africa and FSD Kenya to allow rural users to access affordable remittances. through innovative partnerships between banks and SACCOs, boost the uptake of digital remittances, and empower remittances receivers with financial literacy sessions. This International Day is a small token of our respect for the efforts of the remittances families and an invaluable opportunity for all of us to express commitment to action.
World leaders have expressed a range of positions at the recent Ukraine Peace Summit that held in Switzerland. Over 100 countries were present at the meeting, including representatives from several African countries. During his address, Kenya's President William Ruto accused the EU and the US of hypocrisy over seizure of Russian assets.
We have gathered here and we are reminded by the Indian statesman Mahatma Gandhi, who said that an eye for an eye will make humanity blind. Just as Russia's invasion of Ukraine was unlawful and unacceptable, the unilateral appropriation of Russia's assets is equally unlawful, unacceptable, and a derogation from the UN Charter, especially for those of us who believe in freedom, justice, and democracy.
The President of the UN General Assembly, Denis Francis, has ended his 4-day visit to South Sudan, where he met with President Salva Kiir. Peace and development were top on the agenda at the high-level meeting, with discussions focusing on strengthening cooperation as well as support for the full implementation of the peace agreement in the country. Mr. Francis said it was clear that the government has an ambition to create a strong, successful and progressive nation, but more international support is needed to ensure the people of South Sudan can enjoy the benefits of peace, progress and development.
What I've discovered in South Sudan is a country with great ambition and pride, people who are devoted to the future of this country, but who clearly needs to have the support of the international community and the United Nations in order to walk the road and help and support them in their quest to make this country strong, democratic, free, successful, and progressive. And it is my hope that as time goes by, the international community will understand better the challenges confronting this country, the distance that needs to be traveled in laying down the foundation for a fully functioning, progressive economy and society, which is so much within the desire of the people of this country. I'm very impressed with them, very articulate, very self-assured, very motivated, care deeply about their country, want to make a contribution, experiencing the frustrations that most young people experience in that things are not moving fast enough, but definitely anxious to create a new society that is just, democratic, fair, successful, and progressive.
2 more Nigerian girls trafficked to neighboring Ghana have been rescued. This is coming barely a week after 11 Nigerian girls trafficked were rescued. The chairman CEO, Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, Honorable Abike Dabiri Erewa, confirmed this on Tuesday. She said the 2 girls are now in a safe custody, adding that the rescue operation was again facilitated by Nigerians in Diaspora Organization Ghana under the leadership of the chairman, Chief Callistus. The NIDCOM chair is now reiterating her call for concerted efforts in combating human trafficking in all ramifications, as it is another form of modern-day slavery. And as we end the program today, thousands of Senegalese Muslims have gathered on the beach in Dakar for a mass recitation of the Tabaski prayer, also known as Eid al-Adha. A large crowd of people in white robes gathered at the seacoast performing the traditional prayer. It is common for Muslims in Senegal to slaughter and eat a sheep for this holiday, making the animal extremely sought after in the days leading up to the holiday. However, not every Senegalese can afford a sheep, with prices starting at around $280 per animal. Well, the Eid al-Adha, festival of sacrifice, is one of the two major Islamic festivals. Traditionally, Muslims around the world celebrate by sacrificing an animal and distributing the meat among family, friends, and the needy. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.